All right, good morning. This is the January 2024 Friends of the Fall Line quarterly meeting. Hope you have a happy new year. And I want to say it's also an auspicious day for the start of the General Assembly session for 2024. So keep your eyes on that. Always an exciting time. And we've made progress on trails over the past couple of years, and we're hoping to see some fun trail stuff again this year. I noted that we will not have a PowerPoint presentation today. We're having some egregious internet issues, and I'm dialing in from mobile. So we will just be a little more old school, but we'll be able to share a lot of great information with everyone and still be able to get this recording online. So to start us off, I'd love to do some project updates. I've been in touch with VDOT this morning. I don't think I see David is on. I don't think I see Scott. So he sent me some information for us to share that I will just jump into now. Maybe the most exciting thing is that the alignment through Virginia State University is all but confirmed, and Scott will be presenting to their board next month for final approval. He sent me a map. It looks like a good alignment. It's primarily through the forested area. But the line is a lot straighter than it has been in previous versions of this. I think it looks intuitive, having seen it for about half an hour. It looks like a good alignment. Barb or Ron, anyone have any additional information about that you want to share?
I think you know more than I do. So all I knew is they had it worked out, and yeah, we're good.
And it's been, I think we all know it's been a work in progress for a while. So happy to hear that kind of coming around. Also from Scott, and for everyone's knowledge, Scott is the VDOT project manager for the Fall Line. So we work closely with him on this. They're hoping to get the RFP out for what we call Design Build 2 or DB2, the southern section of Design Build, out this summer, meaning that later, and this is not from him, but the way I've intuited this is it would take a few months to get the vendor selected and do contract work, but could have preliminary work by that design build applicant as early as the end of the year. So I think we're a little behind schedule from what we had sort of thought was possible a year or a year and a half ago, but still moving fairly solidly on this project, and happy to see them develop. Any other, Ron, did I see you on mute? Did you want to say anything about that?
I was just asking, when did you say VSU's board's meeting?
He said February, so I don't have a date for that, but I imagine that's easy to find.
No, I think Ron asked the wrong question. Ron just said VSU's board. You were saying, Brantley, you were saying was VDOT going to approve it, right?
I believe it's VSU.
Oh, VSU. Okay.
From Scott, that VDOT has an internal final alignment for VSU that has initial approval from VSU, but not formal.
Oh, so it's going to their board. Okay, thank you. I hadn't heard that yet.
That's news to me as of this morning as well. Yep. And so for DB1 design build phase 1, which is Hanover, they have 100% plans submitted and they're reviewing them now. And right-of-way acquisitions are in progress. So it seems like that is full steam ahead. Looking forward to more development on that. And I think we will look to probably more technical updates of this nature at the next CBTA Fall Line Working Group. So we can report back if Scott or Mark give any report backs on that. That's what I've got from the VDOT update. Are any locality partners interested in sharing anything? I'll say that we've gotten a lot of press the past couple of weeks. Very exciting. We're on the front page of the Times-Dispatch January 1st. So our website numbers have gone up, which is exciting to see. So I'm sure you've answered a lot of questions about this recently, but particularly germane, I think maybe some trailhead discussions, but Barb or Kristen, Emmy, anyone want to share anything?
Hi, this is Kristen. Thanks, Brantley. Yeah, we're moving along on our sections of trail. As some of you guys know, Park Street, the southern section of Henrico, is scheduled to start construction this month, which is very exciting. We also intend to start construction for most of our other projects by the end of the year, except for one. We also just had a meeting this morning actually with Dominion to talk about installing trees for shade in the Dominion corridor. So hopefully we have some good news to bring back to you all in the next month or so.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
And in Chesterfield, we've got various projects on Route 1 at various stages of development. So some are in the right-of-way phase, but others are just getting started. So we're nibbling away on Route 1 and making good progress, good steady progress.
Great, and I'm making you a co-host now for a later, Barb. Barb's going to share some spur study stuff, which is exciting. Any other locality partners? All right. I keep funding updates on the agenda. There's nothing especially poignant at the moment because of where we are in the year. We're not in a real funding cycle announcement phase, but the General Assembly is coming, and there's a state trails budget that has not yet funded the fall line. So keep your eyes on any developments at the General Assembly there. And I know that our partners are looking at finding funding from any source we can. So I'll just leave it at that. Well, without any other, unless there's any other funding discussion, I think I'll turn it over to you, Barb. We had the pleasure to present about the fall line, just updates about the fall line in Chesterfield a number of times over the past couple of months. We presented at the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, and we were able to meet with Board of Supervisor members to give them some updates as well. And in one of those presentations, Barb gave a presentation about her spur study. So we're excited to see the fall line, even where it's not built yet. There's already planning work being developed to connect to where it will be in the future.
Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Oh, I did it, I think. Can you guys see that?
You're natural.
All right, good. So yeah, we knew that in order to make the Fall Line Trail really valuable, we needed to be able to connect people to the trail and get people that are on the trail to destinations that are nearby. So the purpose of our study was to make those connections. We were lucky because we'd already developed this Fall Line Trail project dashboard that's available on the county webpage. And this has been very useful for us, as VDOT got started with the southern section, because it's an interactive map where you can enter in an address and find out how close the trail is to your property. So, when survey letters went out for the southern section, we were able to connect people to this interactive Fall Line Trail dashboard. And we use that as our starting point in developing our spur study. So on this slide, you can see the green line and the red line. That's the Fall Line Trail. In order to develop the spurs, our strategy was to identify residential density, which is shown with these blue blobs, darker blues, higher density. We also then wanted to find destinations like public facilities, libraries, parks, schools, fire stations, and retail destinations like nice centers for shopping or restaurants. And we also looked for places where spurs might overlap with our adopted bikeways and trails plan for the entire county. So that's kind of our strategy in trying to come up with the spurs that make sense for Fall Line Trail. And from that, we came up with some spurs that are really strictly for residential connections, trying to get people to the trail. So this is up on the northern section. But we also found some locations where it really made sense to have a spur to connect to schools. We've got a high school off of John Winston Jones Parkway, and then off of Cougar Trail. We also have a park there. And then we have some spurs that really are focused on parks. We've got the Bensley Park and Fort Darling. And then, you know, really for us, the Village of Chester is kind of our primary destination with a lot of retail, restaurants, supporting services. We've got a fire station that'll be a trailhead coming in the Village of Chester. So we've got spurs along Route 10 and also trying to make connections to existing facilities. So on Old Centralia, we already have a sidewalk up to Castleberry, trying to extend that sidewalk or trail so that it loops back into the Fall Line Trail, just connects more people and gives people other options to get to and from the trail or to and from destinations. So that's really all I had. If you have any questions, let me know.
Certainly happy to open it to the floor, but really appreciate this work. And I know we've spent the past 6 months or more talking about the value of, it's a lot more than 6 months now, the value of the Fall Line, getting people to places that they want to go from educational sites to where they work, but also parks and schools and lots of other destinations or commerce where people shop. So really exciting to see. And where are we at in the process? Are there next steps?
We're pretty close to finishing up the spur study, and you know, then we'll just have it available for us to use when we go after funding.
Does it need any kind of approval?
No, we probably don't need to go forward with approval. We'll present it to the board for information. But I think we'll be good to go. One thing I did want to mention is it was really great to have sort of a sniff test with you guys, with sports backers, as you were working on your vision plan and also with the community connections that oh gosh, Lane Shift is working on. It was neat to see what you guys were thinking was matching up with what we were thinking. So I really do think the plan is a good one, and we've got some good connections to make in the future.
Great. I think maybe one of my personal highlights is or favorites would be the connection to the government complex and how useful that's going to be.
Yeah, yeah. So on this particular slide, you see this trail along Route 10, which is pretty long. You know, I don't know what a definition of a spur is, but that's a super spur for sure.
Brantley, I had a quick question about maybe bike lane infrastructure in Chesterfield, and pardon my ignorance. I sort of know Chesterfield closer to Pocahontas, less the Route 1 corridor and the connections over, but are there places or streets that have bike lane infrastructure that could potentially be upgraded with the right of way to like a protected bike lane, so you're creating more of like a trail in a street, like within the curb to curb? I think there's bike lanes, some on Iron Bridge at various places, and maybe I'm wrong, but that to me, and I know Chesterfield doesn't necessarily have a lot of the density that you see with other places that are doing kind of big protected bike lane projects, but I'm interested in the idea of like, if you've already got a bike lane, is there a way to create kind of that trail protected feel within the curb to curb?
Yeah, there is. It comes with a heavy price tag, but yeah, for instance, we are working with VDOT right now on a safety study for the Courthouse Road from 60 to 360. And that road has a bike lane. If money grew on trees, what I'd really like to see is us convert the bike lane into a separated facility with a trail on one side, sidewalk on the other. It's expensive. So, you know, slow going, but I can see that as well along Route 10. We've got bike lanes on the road. Being able to utilize that right of way in a different way to separate it would be great. Yeah, it's always money.
Great question.
And good morning, Barb. So just for VDOT Central Office, just for our information, so what you're looking at here, are these going to be kind of meeting the VDOT Trails Office definition of a multi-use trail, which is going to be kind of like a 10-foot paved facility. The question I have after that is, was all of this done in GIS, and do you have that information in shapefile format?
Yes, we do. And I think we've shared that with the State Trails Office already.
Cool.
Or at least it's on our to-do list because I think at the last meeting, Brantley pointed out that that you all were looking for those files. So if we haven't sent them, they're coming. As far as, yes, we do try to make that the trails meet state standards. There are times that we ask for waivers though, if we've got a right-of-way constraint or whatever. So we don't always get the desired maximum, but we make sure we always meet AASHTO standards.
Good deal. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, David, since I have you on the line and I don't want to put you too much on the spot, but can you give us any context of the development for your mapping work and anything that you are willing to share from the State Trails Office?
So yeah, basically at this point, we've wrapped up phase 1, and that includes mapping all existing and planned facilities. So the deadline for planned facilities have elapsed for the analysis phase of the State Trails Plan. We are going to be building up a resource hub that's going to display all the existing and planned facilities throughout the state that meet the VDOT definition standards for 10-foot connected, regionally connected multi-use trail. So all of that should be out later in the year towards the fall. But for part 1, based on the data we've received about 3,000 miles of planned facilities statewide. So pretty robust planned data set. But looking forward to Barb sending over that data. I don't think that was captured, the data we sent over to the tool design group last week. But definitely more than happy to have that data for the State Trails Hub. So certainly it'll be displayed in there. But yep, that's kind of where we are right now.
Great, and thank you for your work on that. And I know, gosh, mapping 3,000 miles of stuff's got to be a task. So that's
Oh yeah, yeah,
I'll also
definitely
give you a plug that you just updated your website. So if you haven't been to the Bicycling in Virginia website in a while, look at the great work that they're doing at VDOT there.
Thanks, Brantley.
All right, the last project update that I've got before we talk more about community and vision plan type stuff is, and I'd like to be able to share my screen, but I'm a little worried about my mobile connectivity. So it's not directly a fall line project, but it will directly impact the fall line, and its design is the forthcoming plan and redesign of the intersection near Linwood Holton Elementary School. It's at Laburnum Road and Hermitage Road in the city of Richmond in the northern section of the fall line alignment. You're probably familiar with that intersection because it used to have a Confederate general statue in the middle of it, and that was removed, and now it's a big expanse of asphalt. And the city has released a survey looking at design options for what they'd like to do to change it. And so we just want to make sure that we're getting the best foot forward on what the fall line design in that section is going to look like, because they're going to be potentially making very substantial infrastructure changes to that intersection. So they've got a survey that's on the BikePed website of rva.gov that closes on the 12th, and they have a public meeting on the 18th at Linwood Holton from 5 to 7 p.m. that would review those designs. To be just a little bit candid, I think the current proposed concepts don't really incorporate the fall line as I think most of us think it will look from a 10-foot multi-use trail. But certainly there's a lot of time to adjust it, and we look forward to that really being a catalyst to really kind of figuring out what the fall line is going to look like in that section. I'm thinking of it basically from Bellevue, which is more or less the entrance to Bryan Park, down to the 5-point intersection of Westwood and what I think of as the Kitchen 64, but that's not there anymore. So the Westwood Bryan Park. And I see Wyatt just said to drop that in the chat. If I could maybe ask, I think Phil probably can find that for us pretty handily if that's okay to drop that in the chat, but it is on the RVA.gov website. So that's just something to pay some attention to, and we think it'll be, oh, thanks, Kelly. We think that'll be a good conversation to have, and we'll be there at that meeting on the 18th. Any other thoughts or discussion before we move on? All right, thanks for bearing with me. So I do want to say we were in the Times Dispatch twice. We gave presentations at the Chesterfield Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. We also presented at the VDOT Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. It was a bit of a trail inspiration presentation, so a lot of fall line stuff, but also lessons learned and sort of some inspiring examples from abroad and other places in the U.S. So we're happy to keep this conversation going, and if I can sort of dovetail into my next fall line vision plan segment, I think it really corroborates something that Kevin Carroll, supervisor in Chesterfield, said as the foreword to our fall line vision plan, which is everyone he talks to is super excited about it, that they think that it's an amazing concept. And we didn't ask him for that. He actually said that at a CVTA meeting, and I was like, Mr. Carroll, can I include that in our vision plan? And he was happy to share that. So just that all the organic supportive comments that you hear about in the entire region, it's something like I keep pinching myself that this is actually even happening. So I want to say that many people on this call, and certainly many people who are not on this call, participated multiple times with our fall line vision plan charrette process. And Andy here from Tool was one of our key consultants, and now he's just back to being a friend. And it was a great experience. The two really significant charrette phases, a lot of back and forth on the document, and I think we've created something that is very aspirational, but also gives us some really flexible near and medium term goals in terms of investing in our placemaking, and lots of different ways, lots of different context sensitive approaches, so that we are, if you're in a rural area, you have rural oriented placemaking. If you're in an urban area, it can look very different. And so from a next step process, we essentially want to start looking at the low-hanging fruit and looking at places where art or placemaking connections to schools and a lot of things that Barb was talking about in terms of spurs, what makes sense in the short term. A little bit selfishly, Sports Backers is planning to move our office right to the fall line at Spring Park, and that certainly has come into focus as an opportunity for some placemaking. But we also want to make sure that as things like trailheads are being discussed, new sections of construction are coming into view, that we're looking at placemaking grants, at working with partnering organizations, especially ones that are very focused on things like art and placemaking and the community and artist involvement with that, at where and when those start to make sense and how we can start to fund them. And Sports Backers can be a good partner, but not be the lead on all of these things, because we're active the transportation more than anything else. So I want to make sure that everyone has access to the fall line vision plan. I shared in my email this morning. If you want higher resolution, we do have it, it's just harder to share. And I also want to give a special shout out to Heather and Phil, who I think maybe put the lion's share of the review of the various drafts that we have, and really appreciate their time and just how much they know about our region. And I almost want to say mega region because of our two planning districts. So I'll leave it at that. And I want to say, I certainly want to give John the opportunity to say something, because I know he was so involved and how, and sort of what we created as everyone in this room together.
Well, you said it well, Brantley, and certainly Tool Design gets a ton of kudos for this work, and it was putting a lot of ideas that were thrown out and sorting through all of that, and so hopefully it provides us a way to connect dots in the future. Often with these projects, no one's quite sure where to go and who to turn to and how to get, we think, like someone commented about trees next to benches. Well, where are the benches being implied, and where can we work to get the trees next to them? And so only by having that kind of laid out a little bit and kind of how that could be done, that helps guide that work for everybody. So, hopefully over the next 10 to 15 years, that document, the vision plan, will help guide all of that extra work, in connecting art groups and funding and localities and locations, and all of that takes time and energy. So yeah, we're excited about it.
You have any thoughts to share, Andy? We certainly think of you as an expert in this.
Well, I will, since you give me the chance. I would say for us, I mean, like the plan reflects the extraordinary work that's going on at the local level, like we just saw from Barb in Chesterfield County. For me, the highlight was in May when we were at the Art Center, the Performing Arts Center, and saw conversations between the Hanover and Henrico about where connections were going to be made and where different things were going to potentially happen along the trail, to coming back in October and being told, hey, you got to move that because we've just bought this piece of land, or you need to like seeing the progression that was happening while the vision plan was going on, hopefully inspired by it, but not necessarily. Was just truly amazing to see, and a credit to everyone that's involved. So it was a delight. I can speak for the team from Tool Design that worked on it. It was a delight working on it, and they are all keen to see how it progresses.
Thanks, Andy. So I want to say it's a pretty big document, and if you want to give a cursory glance at it, I would recommend looking at the maps towards the end. Probably the best place where people are going to want to jump in is look at the zoomed in sections of areas of interest for you, and to see where specific recommendations are. There are dots on the map for art, and sometimes that dot is qualified by a recommendation for what kind of art based on the feedback that we got, whether it's nature themed or history or iron, all kinds of things. And see if it makes sense to you. It's a guiding document. It's not prescriptive in any way, and we think that it will morph over time. But we also think some sections will come into focus early, and we can get starting on working on some of these. I think Spring Park being a good example. Heather, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I had a quick question. It's a beautiful document. I mean, it really is just gorgeous. And I love showing all the materials and colors and things we can use. I'm wondering if we can start sharing it yet. Like, can we?
Oh, certainly. And this is
Yeah.
up my next thing. So
okay, good. Yeah, I want to see if our board should see it next, or how you want us to start getting it out there. Yeah.
What I'll say is we want to continue the conversation. So one, we internally started to think, okay, where are 5 places where it would make sense for us to maybe start talking to artist communities, or start talking to funders, or the property owner, like in the case of it being a park or something like that. But we are not going to be the band or the bottleneck. We don't have to be the only entity who is pursuing some of these, and ultimately we really shouldn't be. So what I would say is, please share the document as is now. It's a little bit big. So what we're working on internally is something that's a little more conversational, a little more graphic, and a little more easily digestible for communities that don't want to look through 100 pages or don't necessarily care about some of the background work that we put into it. So that is definitely coming, because we want to be having these conversations, a lot of them very efficiently, and also recognizing that just a PDF is not the best way to reach a lot of people. But yeah, it's in the public domain now, and anyone that you want to share it with, please do. But we also want to recognize, a 10-page slide is probably a little more effective at reaching people than the full thing.
And then finally, Brantley, share it from the PDF you sent, or is it anywhere else on a website that we should be sharing? I guess that's my other question.
So it's currently a 23 megabyte, which is like just over the size of it being easily emailed. So that link, you can just copy that link. It's in our share file. So happy to use it that way. As you actually, now that I'm hearing this, we should make a bit.ly, a short link. So I'll make that today. All right. I think this is pretty much all I've got on the formal agenda. And if there's anything that we'd like to do any kind of a roundtable update, I'm happy to entertain that. But while we have some time, I'm also happy to chat about if you have thoughts, ideas, connections, or any kind of early initiative to develop some placemaking, whether it's art or storytelling or conversation that needs to take place or a connection to a partner organization. We've asked this question a lot, but there's no time like now to ask it again. Is there anything that you're inspired to work on?
Hi, Naomi with Petersburg. I did want to say that our Main Street organization has been getting off the ground. They're in the early stages, but they're looking at different things that they could tackle and improve with the community. And I made sure to mention to them, since one of the components that they focus on is sort of like placemaking in the downtown area, is the possibility of contributing and supporting placemaking at the trailhead or trail end in Petersburg. So we're having conversations, and I make sure to share it when the opportunity arises for us to see what we can do and who can help support that creation.
That's great. And whenever there becomes a point person, we'd love to have them join the Friends of the Fall Line. Heather and Naomi, maybe Ron, do you want to discuss anything about the potential for the Patton Park trailhead being connected into more of the retail commercial area, Old Town?
Sure, I can give a quick update on that. So we are working with the city of Petersburg, and Timmons has actually produced some new estimates for us about connecting the fall line to Old Town. And we're actually getting some renderings for that section really this week, I think. And Petersburg is taking that to General Assembly this year as one of their legislative asks. So that really is one of their big asks, is making sure we get that good connection between the fall line and Old Town Petersburg. And as Brantley said, we do have some funding to start the work at that trailhead. The co-trailhead for the fall line and Appomattox River Trail will be at Patton Park, and we have some funding to start that project. Needs more funding to make it a full park, but we do have parking lot and some trail aspects coming with that, and hoping to make that a betterment project with the DB2, hoping to get those two things going at the same time. So we will see some movement at that area, but definitely, like you said, Brantley, always more funding and more planning going on. And of course, Naomi has a comp plan that's wrapping up, and that's all going into that planning process too.
That's great. If you wouldn't mind sharing with me any of the budget amendment or other information, that would be helpful for us to be able to track. And great to see that. I'll say, speaking about that area, I'm like, it's great that I think Patton Park is getting some early work. There was the funding from the congressionally directed spending funding from Warner and Kane. I think it was $2 million, maybe a year and a half ago. Is that the funding that's being used for that section?
It was for phase 1A of the trail. And the MPO, we've got some funding in Patton Park too, in that general area.
But I think about, is there an early direction about what kind of placemaking or art could make sense there? I know there's been discussion about how the connectivity to that park is going to impact existing park users. Not to say it's all going to be bad, but there's going to be some compromises happening. Is there a way to facilitate that by putting in benches or something like that, or art, shade, something like that?
Yeah, I think we have some early thoughts on that. We have been working with the community at that park, calls themselves the River Rats. So that's their own name, and we have been really talking with them, and Scott and VDOT really have said that we will do in-person on-site meetings as the DB2 comes along, really making sure those folks have a strong say. And like you said, Brantley, we already talked about shade for fishing in that area. They have a memorial for some of their folks. So you want to make sure we incorporate some of those memorial aspects and really how they're using the park now, just upgrading that. And really VDOT is definitely at the table and making sure that happens with their design for DB2.
Cool. I'll say, and I I think we've stressed this a lot, the opportunity for lots of different kinds of ideas, and some being more grassroots and very community oriented, and some being larger scale and maybe, you know, non-traditional from how you might interpret the art. So, you know, not that there's anything wrong with murals, but is there something bigger or different than murals? And I'll say this is just a little seed that I want to plant, and if it doesn't germinate, that's fine. But there's a famous sculpture in Brussels of an atom. I think it's a carbon atom. It's a kind of a nerdy but really cool, impressive sculpture with, like, you know, the different subatomic particles flying around it. And we learned in this process, I told this story a lot, that an alumna from Virginia State University is co-credited for developing global positioning systems, so GPS, like we use in our phone, and in like the 50s. So in the same era as the Hidden Figures, she wasn't in Hidden Figures, but sort of the same era kind of person. And I just think how cool it would be to put an impressive satellite sculpture in or around Virginia State University, and how like germane it would be, and just on a different kind of scale than I think many people think of when they think about kind of public art. Now, I'm not going to hold anybody to it. I just think it would be kind of a neat idea. Now, what's your wish list? All right. Well, I don't have anything else on the agenda. So, barring any other updates or discussion, I think I'll give you a few minutes back today. If you have some time, thumb through the vision plan, and we're actually planning to print a handful of copies really nicely so that we can drop them at the General Assembly and other places. So if you have a recommendation for someone who needs to get it on their desk in a nice format, just send us a note and we'll make sure it happens.
Thanks.
All right, well, enjoy your morning, and I guess if you're inclined, there'll be lots of speeches this afternoon down at the General Assembly. So tune in.
Thanks, Bradley.
Thanks, y'all.